let's jump right into this. A very exciting episode for you today.
Yes, it is the one, the only, Anthony Parker, Alexander, and Candance Owens. Well, if you're a fan of this show, you know we try to do things with a Parker twist. We don't just keep it simple. We don't just keep it real. We keep it honest. You have any questions or comments, you can email yours truly. It's parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. If you like to text us, leave a message, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. You've watched the show, you know we try to do things with Parker Twist. We try to give you the left side, we try to give you the right side. And at the end of the day, we hope you decide. And if you're upset about it, well, at least we gave you both sides of the story. Speaking of upset, freedom of speech, person to my left over there, Candance Owens, you know her, you love her, I guess, and you hate her and you just can't get enough of her. Well, recently, she was let go by the Daily Wire. Give you a little rundown. So last November, because she's been involved in a lot of controversy, Owens and Daily Wire co-founder Ben Shapiro, they engaged in a very public fight over Israel's war against Hamas. And it's interesting because it seems like the past couple years that when people are fighting vocally about this war, usually somebody wins or somebody loses. And if it's a host, that host usually loses. So they got into this fight. And when they got into this fight, verbal fight, it was very uncomfortable for both sides. And she claimed, even throughout the tension, that just before being let go by her employer, that Shapiro doesn't have the right to fire her. Well, I guess he did have the right or the power to fire her. You just don't know. So let's go back 2019. Owen said, if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. Wow, controversial right there. But the Daily Wire, even after that statement, they still decided to hire her. And throughout the past couple of years, it's just been more intense criticisms, contradictions, and maybe some truthfulness coming from Ms. Owens. She's at this platform, people wondering, was she using this to get something else? Did she know she was going to get fired? Did she know she couldn't continue to be herself and work with the Daily Wire? Well, I guess somebody had the last straw. And it's interesting because after she's been let go, a lot of African Americans have said, well, don't come to our platform because all you did was kind of dog us. You didn't like reparations. You talked about the Democrats. You talked about um, poor people. And you're on a platform where maybe you could have helped African Americans. But it seems like you just dispersed them whenever you wanted to. This is what they're saying. So some of the comments that she has said, because we're going down the Candance Owens journey. We're going to go down this journey to see where she's at, where she was, where she is, where she's going. So some of the comments. She liked a post on X, which of course was formerly Twitter, that asked a rabbi that she has been feuding with whether he is drunk on Christian blood again. Wow. I can't make this up. She warned that Jews are going to be blamed if TikTok is banned. She suggested that there is a Jewish gang in Hollywood committing horrific things on people. She defended Ye, Kanye West, of course. Now, these are some of her conspiracy theories. She pushed speculation that the First Lady of France, Brigitte Macron, is a transgender woman. Wow. She claimed that Hollywood was created by the CIA. She says she likes conspiracy theories because I view them as mind yoga. She suggested that Bill Gates is using mosquitoes to make people allergic to beef. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of people believe in conspiracy theories. So she is a queen of one. On Fox News, she compared vaccine outreach programs to a child predator and Hitler youth programs. And she has a lot to say about Hitler, too. She says she would rather die of COVID than take the COVID vaccine. Responding to rumors that she was vaccinated, she said, I am not getting the vaccine, ever. Never going to get it. I don't care if I'm on my deathbed and they say it can save you. I'm not going to get it. I'm principally now opposed to it. And I do not understand why anyone who is healthy, able-bodied, and young would ever get this vaccine if you're not at risk of COVID. And she even suggested that actor Bob Saget, who everybody loved, may have died from the COVID-19 vaccine. Wow. So what do you think about this? She's been known supposedly as a Jewish hater, a Hitler lover, an African American hater, a Republican lover, a Democratic hater. But you have to give her credit. She does talk about free speech. And I talk about free speech. That's the one thing we do have in common. But when does free speech fracture free speech? If you want to come on and give the left side of the story, then you also should be able to do the right side. It may not be things that you're comfortable with, but sometimes conversations aren't comfortable. And speaking of that, throughout the show, we're going to talk, we're going to give information from Wikipedia. Some people live and die by this. We're going to go through some of the stuff. And just when you think we're making it up, she's also going to confirm what we talk about. What are some of the good things about her? We always hear bad things. Well, her name is Candance Owens. Birthday is April 29th. She was born 1989. She's 34, about to be 35. She's a political commentator, political activist, and an author. And whether you like her or not, she is. She's been rumored to want to run for politics. And with everybody running, she might have time now to run again. Her movement is Black conservatism. She's married to George Farmer. She has 3 children. And she's one of the most influential, I guess, people in the world, whether you like her or don't like. You have to acknowledge what you have to acknowledge. So let's go back to the early ages of her. When she was in school, which I thought was interesting, she was born in White Plains, New York. She was raised with her siblings by her grandparents from the age of 11 or 12 after her parents divorced. She's the third of 4 children. Her paternal grandfather, Robert Owens, Black American, was born in North Carolina. She's of Caribbean American descent through her grandmother. And she is a graduate of Stanmouth High School. So can you picture, she's 35 now. Let's go back half for that, 17. In 2007, she was a 17-year-old senior in high school. And back then, she received 3 racist death threat voicemail messages, totaling 2 minutes. And this is from a group of white male classmates, which included, listen to this, the son of then mayor, the mayor's son, and future Democratic governor, Daniel Malloy. So boy, you wonder how those political parties are, literally. If he's a Republican and she's a Republican, and she goes to the governor, and she says, yeah, I remember your son. gave me a death threat. Where do I sign to endorse you? So the city superintendents of schools back then, he listened to the voicemail and said that they were horrendous. And the Board of Education in federal court gave her family $37,000, over $37,000 in January 2008. She pursued an undergraduate degree in journalism in college, but she dropped out after her junior year because of an issue with her student loan. So she didn't really get a chance to finish, I guess, from what I read here, because of her student loan. Boy, I guess she'd be for Biden now. So afterwards, she interned for Vogue magazine as an administrative assistant for a private equity firm in Manhattan. Wow. And she later became a vice president of administration. So back then, she was growing very powerful. Wow. So you are watching, Keeping It Honest, yours truly, Anthony Parker, as we go down, which I think is pretty interesting, the journey of Candance Owens. Some people are glad she's fired, but think about this. She probably had a contract. They probably bought her out. What was the key thing that happened that made them say, you know what? We're tired of you. Was she a role model for African Americans? Was she a role model for Black African American women? Who is she a role model for? Well, I think as far as standing her beliefs, whether you like them or not, she was a role model. Always stand for your beliefs. Don't back down. So in this episode today, we're going to hear her words. We're going to hear how she talks and how she says people been after her and she's just tired. But are people after her just to be after her, or are people after her because of the things that she says? Anti-Semitic? Was she a Jew hater? Was she an African American hater? Was she a gay lesbian hater? What did she like? Was she liked in her eyes to tell the truth? And what was the straw that broke the camel's back? Some people say it was this interview with Rabbi Barclay. He came on the show, and it was an interesting show. He had talked about her, wrote about her, attacked her, and so she decided to invite him on her show and clear up some of that because she didn't like to get attacked, especially when she says she's innocent. So one of her last shows, one of her best shows, about a 40-minute show where she talked to the rabbi, had him on her show, which how many people would do that? Have somebody who attacked you. And you sit back and you discuss things and you have an uncomfortable conversation. And sometimes conversations to get misunderstandings out of the way have to be uncomfortable. So I give her a lot of credit for this.
Here in my hands, I am holding an article that was published by PJ Media. The title is Let's Be Honest. Candance Owens is a Jew-hating bigot. It was written by a rabbi, Rabbi Michael Barclay. So I read this article, and honestly, there are only two options here. Either this rabbi is genuinely ignorant of everything that I have ever said, in which case I'm happy to clarify it because he will be joining us on today's episode. Or the other option is he's completely aware of the things that I have said, and he is just a monster. I'm excited to find out when we sit down here with Rabbi Barclay. That's what we have coming up on Candance Owens.
Well, it's controversial. She sits there on more profile and listen again. You're watching, Keeping It Honest, Anthony Parker.
All right, guys, we're going to jump right into this. As I stated at the top of the show, we have Rabbi Michael Barclay. He is, by the way, joining us really last second. So if the shot is not perfect, really appreciate him coming on such short notice. Rabbi Michael Barclay, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Candance. And Candance, I really want to tell you, I've written certain things and it gives me great optimism that you're gracious and reached out yesterday and wanted to get together. It actually makes me very optimistic.
Yes, so I am the ultimate defender of free speech, and I believe that we need more speech, not less of it. When we see things and we believe them not to be true, rather than censoring that individual, we should actually give that person a platform, because people will walk away and be able to assess whether or not the statements they heard was true. And so just to give a little bit of background to people listening to this, you appeared on Charlie Kirk's show and you referred to me as anti-Semitic. Is that correct? Okay.
Not only that, Candace, I've actually written a couple of articles, one in November and one last week, about your anti-Semitism. Yeah.
Correct. And referring to that article that you wrote last week, published on March 9th, the heading reads, "Let's be honest, Candance Owens is a Jew-hating bigot." So that's very punchy, very strong language. And I want to actually go through this article point by point so that you can defend your position and say why you wrote this.
Candace, I think before that, and as I said, I'm very optimistic that you would have a dialogue about something. I think before that, there are some real steps, which is, I have called you, and I'm not alone in this, many Jews have called you an anti-Semite.
Mm-hmm.
I've also talked to people who say you have a really sweet heart, just so you know. You and I have a number of mutual friends in the world. But I think it's important to first identify what anti-Semitism is. It is a different type of hate than any other type of hate in the world. And if you and I are speaking crossways because we have a different understanding and definition, that's not going to lead to any dialogue. That's not going to lead. Look, I said to Skylar, I'd love to walk out of here and say, you know what, I was wrong, and write an article, I apologize, and I was wrong. But the first piece is to have a mutual understanding of what is anti-Semitism. I think that would help a tremendous amount.
I actually totally agree with you on that. That is a perfect place to start. Could you provide for us a definition of anti-Semitism?
And so what else happened in this show? We're going to stop right there for that. I want your homework is to find out what anti-Semitism is. Because on this show, Rabbi Barclay and Candance Owens, they did talk about that. So I give them a lot of credit. I give her a lot of credit for talking about that. It was about a 40-minute show, and they got to talk about anything and everything. And they decided to deal with anti-Semitism as a start. So I don't know for you, but for me, as I do these shows, there's things you think black and white. Here's glasses, right? Here's a pen, right? Black and white. Some people may see this as spectacles instead of glasses, and some people may see this as pen. So technically, is it black and white? Everybody has their own opinion. And what we try to do on this show, like I said, we try to give both sides of the story. We try to let you decide. And hopefully throughout that, while you're deciding, you're getting the truth of everything. And that's all that we try to do, is give you the truth. That 40-minute show, they talked about things that was true and untrue. He brought us some things. She addressed videos, and she pretty much combated a lot of things that he said. It was one of her last interviews, and it showed no matter what kind of fighter she is, I'm not condoning her. Okay? I'm just saying, as far as when you believe in something, you believe in something, and nobody can tell you anything else. Was she a pariah out there? Was she giving things to people as far as viewers, and she wasn't giving all the stories? Was she saying things that was totally crazy, as I read some of the comments? She doesn't think she did anything wrong. She thinks that everything that I talked about, I did for the greater good. So, as I said, we're reading certain things, and then we're going to go through what she says. So, in 2015, Owens was CEO of Degree 180, a marketing agency that offered consultation, production, and planning services that included a blog on a variety of topics, written by Owens and other commentators. In a 2015 column that she wrote for the site, she criticized conservative Republicans, writing about the bat blank crazy antics of Republican Tea Party. She also added that the good news is they will eventually die off peacefully in their sleep, we hope. And then we can get right on with the obvious social changes that needs to happen immediately. In 2016, the blog featured an article mocking Donald Trump's penis size. So you wonder how many of these things are she saying because of she wants attention. She launched socialautopsy.com in 2016, a website that would expose bullying on the internet, which sounds good, by tracking their digital footprint. You think that's something that's kind of needed. The site would have solicit users to take screenshots of offensive posts and send them to the website, where they would be categorized by the user's name. She used crowdfunding on Kickstarter for the website. Sounds like a good thing. The proposal was immediately controversial. Now you wonder why it was controversial if you're doing things to help people who are bullied. She drew criticism that she was doxing internet users and violating their privacy. Well, my thing on that is, don't go bullying people. According to the Daily Dot, people from all sides of the anti-harassment debate were quick to criticize the database, calling it public shaming listing that would encourage doxing and retaliatory harassment. So technically, you're harassing somebody online. This company finds that you're harassing somebody online. They go after you. Now, they're wrong. Both conservatives and progressives condemned the website. So in response to this, people began posting Owens' private details online. So pretty much they're like, okay, well, you're doing this, and you're going after people, but you're going after people who are going after people. So we're going to go after you. So with scant evidence, she blamed the doxing on progressives. And it's ironic because she became a conservative, saying in 2017, I became a conservative overnight. I realized that liberals were actually the racists. Liberals were actually the trolls. Wow. Social autopsy is why I'm conservative. So because of her site. Kickstarter suspended funding for this, and the website was never created. Wow. But was there good in that? It seemed like at one point it was. So again, she did this site to go after the bullies who were bullying people. And they said, well, you know what? You're putting out personal information, so we're going to put out personal information on you. So was her intentions right? You be the judge. And speaking of, we're judging, I guess, the journey, of Candance Owens and how she got to where she got to. So we were talking about the Rabbi Barclay interview. She got a lot of views, got a lot of likes, dislikes, but this was one of her last shows. And what it showed, it was. Because of replications, some people saying she was fired because of this show. But she feels that she did the right thing on the show, defending herself.
We've been trending all day on X, given the interview that I gave with Rabbi Barclay yesterday. A lot of you guys have so many comments regarding that back and forth. And one of the questions that I have is, why do so many people think I'm going to get killed? Yeah, it's a recurring theme. People are like, be careful, Candace, double up on your security. Don't do this, don't do that. They're going to kill you. You're going to get Michael Jacksoned. Where is all of that rhetoric coming from? Today, I want to unpack it, and I want to formally state my history when it comes to my engagement with the political movement in America, reveal to you guys some things that I've never revealed before, really want to crack open this dialogue.
So it's going to be an interesting show. She's going to talk about her life. And as you'll see on the show, you wonder if she knew she was going to get fired and maybe she just didn't want to leave, but she wanted to leave on her note because she talks a lot about herself on this show. She really defends a lot of stuff that she does. Very interesting show. So again, we're going to go back, talk about some of the things that she's done. November 21st, 2017, at the MAGA rally and expo, founder Charlie Kirk, which she'll talk about, announced that Owens had been hired as the organization's director of urban engagement. So what does urban engagement mean? When they use the term urban, are they talking Black or are they talking rural? Turning Point's hiring of Owens occurred in the wake of allegations of racism at Turning Point. Hence, she got a job as the organization's director of urban engagement. In May 2019, she announced her departure as communications director for the organization. In April 2018, Kanye West tweeted, "I love the way Candance Owens thinks." The tweet was met with diversion on the part of many of West's fans. A lot of people like West, but they don't like, wow, Candance Owens. In April 2020, politically, she announced her intention to either run for office in the United States Senate or to be a governor, and that she would only run against an incumbent Democrat, not a Republican. So her being a strong Republican, she didn't want to take anybody else out, but she would have loved to run against a Democrat. And that was only 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago. So who knows, now for time, she might be able to run again. She did not reveal, though, back then, which specific office she would run for or in which election cycle. Back around the 2020 elections, she announced she would be joining the Daily Wire and would be hosting her own show. "I'm moving to Nashville and joining the Daily Wire. This was a tough secret to keep. I couldn't be more excited." She was excited. I wonder how she is now. Her podcast, Candance, appeared on the platform on March 19th, 2021. And she aired her shows in front of a live audience. Notable guests: Donald Trump, Jim Jordan. And in February 2021, she tweeted that she was considering a run for president. Hear this, she was considering a run for president in 2024. And maybe that's something that she's going to do. Candance Owens for president? Can it get any worse?
All that and more today coming up on Candance Owens.
Besides the running for president, lady, I'm going to tell you everything she's done or doing. So watching Keeping It Honest.
One of the biggest sales ever. 30 beef sticks for just $30.
I hate it too.
Try for $1 each. 6 grams of protein.
All right, guys, a tremendous, tremendous response. Honestly, thank you. I think people of all races and religions were just shocked by the conversation that I had with Rabbi Barkley yesterday. It wasn't really much of a conversation. Obviously, he spoke a lot more than I did, but I was happy for that. I was grateful for that because I wanted people to hear his perspectives. I know this is going to sound weird, but I kind of like Rabbi Barkley because I think he's honest. I think he honestly, as I tweeted yesterday, views himself as better and more important, or at least his race as more important than other races, more significant, the history of his race as more significant. And even in terms of someone being a supremacist, if you are honestly a supremacist, at least I can appreciate that because you're not hiding who you are. And that's why I meant it when I said that he will always be welcomed back onto the show. I think it takes courage to have conversations. And I think that what he did yesterday was actually quite courageous.
And you think about that, you have to go to that show and watch that because they had a tit for tat. And I think at the end, it was kind of a respect for each other. Conversations sometimes aren't nice, especially when you're talking to somebody that totally agrees or disagrees with you and you disagree with each other.
Couple of moments that you guys were shocked by, just like me, was, I guess, just the lack of definition when it comes to anti-Semitism. It mutates. He told us that over and over again. It is a definition. It is a hate that mutates, which essentially, at least the way I took it, and I think most of you took it, means that it can just be whatever they say that it is, including the term hag. I think I actually learned the word hag from watching the movie Hocus Pocus when I was a kid. It actually was one of my favorite movies, and they used the word hag, and I used it to describe someone that is engaging in witch-like behavior, trying to cast a spell on audiences to convince them that Candance Owens is an anti-Semite when I could not be further from that sort of a categorization. I have no hatred towards Jewish people in my soul. I just don't. I had many experiences with Jewish people growing up. I've already recounted those. We're not going to do that today. But yes, Rabbi Barclay says that the scholars agree. He kept talking down to me. It's the scholars, it's the intelligentsia. They're so much smarter than us, and they understand the definition just changes. I think.
So I'm wondering too, I like that the hate that mutates. You have so much hatred and it just goes around, around, around. How much of this in people's eyes does Candance Owens push? The hate that mutates. Trying to find good stuff to all this with these papers. Again, I'm going to read these. She's going to talk. Okay. The Blexit Foundation. So Blex, a term originally coined by Belia Connolly, is a form of black and X that mimics Brexit. Okay. This word used to describe the United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union. The original movement was started in 2016 by Connolly with the goal of achieving Black economic independence by encouraging Black Americans to leave the traditional financial systems that have historically disadvantaged the Black community. And sometimes myself, I feel that's a lot to ask for. It really is a lot to ask for people to stand up on their own and say, we have to stop depending on people. And throughout this show, the one thing I like, some of the things that she says is misinterpreted, and we try to make it make sense. So as she's talking, hopefully we can try to make it make sense. She has a thing that pretty much means, well, we have to get up off our behinds, African Americans, and stop depending on people. Wow. So Owens in 2018, she launched a different Blex Foundation. It featured a social media campaign to encourage ethnic minorities, including African Americans and Latinos, to leave the Democratic Party and register as Republicans. Wow. At the time, 8% of Black Americans identified as Republicans. In 2023, her foundation merged with Turning Point USA, the former nonprofit organization for which Owens had worked. So at that launch in October 2018, she said that her dear friend and fellow superhero, Kanye West, designed merchandise for the movement. The following day, he denied being the designer and disavowed the effort, saying, I never wanted any association with Blacks. I've been used to spread messages I don't believe in. After an apology, West continued to support Owens as of September 2020. So did she put that out there saying that she was working with Kanye, and he pretty much said no? A lot of controversy. Like I said, how much of the controversy is truthful?
I think a lot of you guys were also surprised by the double down, right? In the face of overwhelming evidence. I just thought there was no way, once we pulled the clips of me saying the exact opposite of what he claimed that I said, I thought there was no way that he was going to double down on it, but he did. He particularly doubled down on the Hitler is okay Candance thing, right? Candance said Hitler is okay. He repeated that over and over again in that hit piece. And then I showed that I did not in any way say Hitler was okay, because what crazy person would ever jump on a stage and say that? Here's one comment from YouTube. Somebody wrote, when she played her Hitler quote and he still stood by what he wrote, I lost respect for this guy.
So that's interesting too. Hitler is okay. Whoever says that, it's almost like saying slavery was okay. And then we know that term where I can't remember the guy, where he pretty much said, it made African Americans tougher throughout the years of slavery. You talk about trying to make something good out of something bad.
Yeah, a lot of comments looked like that. And I think especially because so many people had never actually heard what I said in its entirety. You've seen the libels, you've seen the smears, they've been printed for years. I am still having to clarify. For years, I have been clarifying what I said. And many of you guys had never heard it because you've just seen article after article, hit after hit, people trying to convince the masses that I said something that I simply never said. And in watching that clip, I think people were shocked. But yes, this is the truth. And factually speaking, as a political pundit, whatever it is that you want to call me, as a podcaster, I have been smeared and libeled for years. And I feel a power building in that people are getting tired of this. We are being tired of being propagandized. And that is why, for me, I feel in my soul at the time is now. And people are asking, why is Candance speaking out right now? Well, the truth is I'm simply tired of being lied on. I'm a human.
She is a human. And I'm always going to say you wonder. So she says people are piling on her. Are they piling on her because she's making certain statements, doing certain things? What is she doing that people are tired? Sometimes when you're that person that takes all the hits, sometimes you're the person that's supposed to take the hits. Sometimes, even as a journalist, you have to get the truth out there. In her eyes, she's getting the truth out. But at what cost is she doing what she's doing? So again, you're watching Keeping It Honest, yours truly, Anthony Parker, the Candance Owens journey. So she said she had no interest in politics whatsoever before 2015, but previously identified as a liberal. In October 2018, she said that she had never voted. Now that's interesting. She's never voted up until 2018 and had only recently become a registered Republican. So for at least up until the last 8 years, she wasn't even voting, but was giving opinions. Let's make sense of that. In January 2019, Owens stated, "The left hates America and Trump loves it." She added that the left was destroying everything about the cultural Marxist ideology. The Guardian described Owens as ultra-conservative. Now, she was influenced, a lot of people wonder, well, who influenced her? She was influenced by the works of Ann Coulter, who's kind of out there sometimes, Ben Carson, and Thomas Sowell. Wow, so those are her role models? Is she a role model to anybody out there? Please let me know. Is she a role model as a Black person, as a Black female Republican, or is she someone who you don't want to be as a role model?
Right? Eventually you get to a point where you say, I'm just not going to allow people to lie on my name anymore, especially, again, as I said, when it's been happening for years. And really all I've ever done since I've had a platform is just try to show you guys the truth. I don't want to tell you what to think. I can only share with you what my experiences are and hope that it helps you develop your own ideas. So
we're going to recap it a little bit. She's going to recap it and talk about how she feels. And it just seems like she's just kind of tired. When voices are taken out of social media, especially African American voices, do we miss them? Everybody has to have their perspective. Okay. And she's just another perspective, but what a strong perspective she has had, whether we like it or not. So she's promoted a quote by Russian President, Putin, which included the assertion that the USSR created the modern country of Ukraine. Her views have received support from the Embassy of Russia, Washington, D.C., particularly following her tweet stating Russian lives matter after the start of Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Again, saying things because she believes it or saying things to get a response. In March 2022, she faced criticism from historian Anne Applebaum for claiming that Ukraine wasn't a thing until 1989 and dismissing the notion of a Russian-led genocide in the country, prompting Applebaum to label Owens as ignorant of history. In December 22, she faced backlash and fact-checking on social media after making unfounded claims about Ukrainian President Zelensky's wife, with Twitter users debunking her allegations and highlighting the lack of evidence. She's done a lot, no matter what, in her years, and maybe she really is tired of taking hits.
Recap, because I'm going to share some things I've never shared before. Obviously, you guys know that I hit the scene in 2017, and I had a laser sharp focus on the Black community. My career began when I started making YouTube videos, really challenging the BLM narrative. I was having my own awakening in real time about the lies that the media was printing about Black people, really lies that were meant, in my viewpoint, to keep Black people down, to encourage Black people to live a life of criminality, to encourage Black people to loot and to riot their own neighborhoods in the name of some perceived social justice. I pretty immediately got hired at Turning Point USA, and I hit the ground running with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is unapologetically pro-Israel. Everybody knows this. I was beside him throughout most of his pro-Israel commentary, and I bet if people dug it up on the internet, you would hear me saying pro-Israel talking points. And I say talking points because when I got into it, I didn't really care, again, about Israel because I was an American and I just wanted to talk about Black America. But certainly I was nodding my head no matter what Charlie Kirk said, because I was just grateful to have a platform to talk about the things that were important to me. And I had a wonderful experience with Charlie Kirk, and I learned a lot under him and with Turning Point USA. In 2018, Charlie Kirk and I traveled to the United Kingdom, and it is there that I gave a notorious speech in November of 2018, where that clip was derived from. I'm going to show you that clip again in its context. We were talking about things that were happening in the United States, and somebody raised their hand and asked about the word nationalism, why we're all so afraid to say, I'm a nationalist. I am focused on my own nation. And in trying to answer their question, I basically said, because the word nationalism has been wrongly attributed to Adolf Hitler, at least in America, and that's why people are afraid to embrace the word. Here are my words again.
Yeah, I agree. I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets, the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism. So in thinking about how it could go bad down the line, I don't really have an issue with nationalism. I really don't. I think that it's okay. It's important to retain your country's identity and to make sure that what's happening here, which I think is incredibly worrisome in terms of the decrease in the birth rate that we're seeing in the UK, is what you kind of want to avoid. So I don't have anything problem. I have no problems with nationalism. It's globalism that I try to avoid.
Wow, man, you look at that. Very interesting young lady. You wonder where in her life did everything change from having the couple of different role models to where she's talking about nationalism and Hitler. I mean, who talks about Hitler? Are there any African American people out there that talk about Hitler? Not that I know of. But even then, Hitler, Jews, it seems like she always had something to do with that. Her upbringing, I just wonder how much of it was Afrocentric. She says that she started out doing things for African Americans. But how long ago was that? Because how much love does she get from African Americans? Watching, keeping it honest, yours truly, Anthony Parker, the Candance Owens journey. So she talked about Black people. And she's known for her criticism of the Black Lives Matter movement and has described Black Lives Matter protesters as a bunch of whiny toddlers pretending to be oppressed for attention. Wow. She's argued that African Americans have a victim mentality, often referring to the Democratic Party as a plantation. Stating in 2020, Black lives only matter to white liberals every 4 years ahead of an election. And how much of that is true too? You got Biden coming back to African Americans, where technically over the past couple of years, it seems like he's ignored them, but he knows he needs that vote. And even Republicans, they're trying to get as many African Americans as they can to run for office and to get their vote. So Owens said in 2020, she has argued that American left likes Black people to be government dependent. How much of that is true? And that Black people have been brainwashed to vote for Democrats. Yes, you don't really have to just vote for Democrats. Black people, the history of it, at one point they were Republicans, then they turned Democrats. Now we feel like African Americans can only be Democrats because when you're Republicans, you stand out and you're called a sellout. I can tell you. Furthermore, Owens has argued that Black brutality in the United States and instances of police killing Black people are not sourced in racism, but typically occur when the officer feels his life is under threat. So she believes that there's no racism from police. Wow. Adding a police officer feels his life is under threat 18 and a half times more likely to die at the hands of a Black person than vice versa. Wow. So a white cop feels like his chances of dying by a Black person is 18 times more higher. She has also characterized abortion as a tool for the extermination of Black babies. How do you make this up? I mean, are there facts with this? She has said that Black Americans are doing worse off economically today than we were doing in the 1950s under Jim Crow. I've heard about that. I don't know if that's true though. Adding that this is because we've only been voting for one party since then. She has attributed economic improvements for African Americans, such as a low unemployment rate, vice versa. She has characterized abortion as a tool again for the extermination of Black babies. Wow. She has attributed economic improvements for African Americans, such as a low unemployment rate, to Trump's presidency. On several occasions, Owens has claimed that the effects of white supremacy and white nationalism are exaggerated and would not reach her own personal top 100 list of modern issues facing Black America. Wow, so he got 100 issues, and that's not even on one of them, especially compared to other issues facing Black Americans, such as Black on Black crime and illiteracy rates. So those two can be on the top 100, but not white supremacy and white nationalism. Wow.
There you have it. I have no issues with nationalism. There's no person that can watch that clip and somehow believe that I was saying it's totally okay to Holocaust the Jews. I didn't even mention the word Holocaust. I didn't mention the word Jews. Truly was answering a question about whether or not we should embrace the word nationalism, but that didn't matter. Now, again, I want to be clear that that clip that you're watching, that was recorded in 2018 at a live event in the UK. And there were journalists at that event. I was interviewed by journalists at that event. About 200 people were in attendance, amongst them many Jewish people were in attendance. Nobody cared. Nobody thought it was problematic what I said on stage. Fast forward to 2019, and out of nowhere, a journalist writing for Media Matters decided to make that clip go viral online. The journalist's name who made that clip go viral on Twitter was Jonathan Whitehouse. Again, he writes for Media Matters, and suddenly I woke up months after having given a speech to every person calling for me to be canceled because I supported Adolf Hitler. That's not a joke. I'm showing you some headlines. This is Media Matters. Turning Point USA's Candance Owens, quote, "If Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. I have no problem with nationalism."
And remember, that's one of the things we read at the top of the show. If Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. I have no problems with nationalism. We heard that quote. She read that quote. Now she's talking about it.
Wow, that's kind of making it seem very different from what I was actually saying. Behind them, BuzzFeed News, Candance Owens, if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. Again, no context given to that quotation, so you can imagine the firestorm that was caused. And Mediaite, Candance Owens, Hitler's nationalism was actually fine. It was his globalism that was a problem. You can already see what they were trying to do. And again, the firestorm that I endured, I will tell you something personal. I was so stressed out by that event that I stressed myself into an autoimmune response. Like my body was breaking down because I didn't understand what was happening. I'd never in my entire life been accused of anti-Semitism. And suddenly I was fighting for my career. I was temporarily blacklisted from Fox News for having said this sentence, which suddenly again was pulled out of obscurity. And I quite literally was facing a threat that everything was going to be over because how dare I say that? I have absolutely no right to say that. And then you had Jewish organizations that issued very strong statements against them, among them the Simon Wiesenthal Center. Here is a tweet from them when this was going viral back on February 8th, 2019. They wrote, "Scope and depth of Candance Owens' lack of knowledge of basic history is appalling and frightening. Hitler's program to make Germany great was based on race and anti-Semitism." Also, of course, the ADL instantly jumped on this. They retweeted first and foremost John Whitehouse, so they helped to make this video go viral. And then they wrote this in response: "Candance Owens bizarrely claims Hitler went wrong only when he meddled in other countries. Hitler's murderous crimes against Jews and others were horrific, regardless of whether they occurred across Europe or in Germany alone. Hitler wasn't a globalist, but a genocidal dictator." So you see what they're doing here. They're just engaging in the libel and the slander. They're trying to color people's opinions before they've actually heard or understood the context of what I was saying. And let me tell you guys something. It worked. It actually worked. That is the power of the media. I felt like it was a hit job. Like someone just said, we've got to get her, pour through every second of footage of Candance Owens speaking. We're going to pull something out of context, and this girl is going to be gone. Because what else could this be? Of course, if I was on stage saying I love Hitler, it would have gotten viral back in November. The Jewish people that attended my speech would have been outraged immediately. Why was this suddenly popping up in February of 2019? I'll never have an answer on that, but something that I never shared and I want to share today was what happened thereafter.
So it's going to be interesting, that part, when she shares what happened thereafter. But boy, so she's in the media, and the media's purpose, responsibility, especially if you're a journalist, is to tell the news. Try not to slant it if you're a journalist. If you're a talk show host, of course you may slant it. But as a journalist, you have to get both sides of the story. And she considers herself a journalist, but now she's seen the price you pay when you say certain things and the interpretation of it. So how did she become the person of nationalism, of Jewishism, because I'm kind of making up the word, where when she says stuff, people come after her. I mean, you can't just do other things. I mean, people talk to you about black on black crime, and you have your comments on that. People talk to you about just being that one person that's got so many negative things to say. What are some of the positive things to say? And that's why we're here. We try to keep it honest. Sometimes our things may not be positive, but it's the honesty, it's the truth, it's the conviction of the stories we try to put out. If you have any comments or questions, you can email yours truly. It's parkerman2011@gmail.com, parkerman2011@gmail.com. Give me a call, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. Again, some of the notes that we have. We hear her talking. She's backing up exactly kind of what we're talking about. Give me the good stuff from her. Give me the good stuff, hopefully, in here. We'll see. When asked if it was problematic that white supremacy groups such as the KKK support Trump, Owens answered that Antifa was more prevalent than the KKK. Owens has said that the media coverage the KKK had during Trump's presidency to hurt him was showcased through the media and because of the media. In a 2019 hearing on hate crimes, this part is interesting, she referred to the KKK as a democratic terrorist organization. After the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, Owens said the concern over rising white nationalism was stupid. Really, white nationalism kind of was resurging, but she says it was stupid. She has also called it just election rhetoric, and based on the heresy of what's impacting minority Americans, if I had to make a list of 100 things, again, she said it wouldn't be on that list. All of the violence this year primarily happened because of people on the left. In June 2019, Owens said that African Americans had it better in the first 100 years after the abolition of slavery in the United States than they have since. Wow.
This is Brother Cornell West, and it has been my blessing and joy to be in such high quality conversation with Brother Anthony Parker of Keeping It Honest. Make sure you never miss his show.
And thank you, Dr. Cornell West, who's also presidential candidate, for supporting our show. We don't just keep it simple. We don't just keep it real. We keep it honest. And throughout the show, you see me drinking. This is hot tea for people that want to know. I'm not promoting this, but I'm doing the hot tea. 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. And email address is parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. We thank you again for supporting our show. What do you think so far? Again, this lady right here, Candance Owens. Do we feel sorry for her? I don't know. But it makes you think about free speech. And if we don't have free speech, we won't have people saying things maybe we don't want to hear. But then sometimes that's how we get solutions. Sometimes conversations are, I guess you'd call it, uncomfortable. But sometimes we have to have those uncomfortable conversations to get through things. You think about that. When we have these conversations, how would we not be able to have solutions in certain things? We have the left side, we have the right side. We can come to the table and we can sit and hopefully decide. That's how things are, I guess, are completed, where everybody may not be satisfied, but at least we get to go on this journey. And speaking of this journey, we are dealing with the journey of Candance Owens, how she started out. We talked about role models. We talked about the things that she has said. I have given you things from right here, right off of Wiki. I've read some of the things, and then we've collaborated with not just me giving these, and some people think these are opinions, but with this person, Candance, also confirming some of the things that we have said. It's been a very interesting show. She's been a person that some people consider a role model. And I'm always again, well, what is a role model? What is a person, or who is a person that you want to be? We look at her and she doesn't back down from anything, but in this interview as she's talking, you just kind of hear that she is just kind of tired of so many things. Wow. When does it come a time where you say, enough is enough? And maybe with Candance, maybe she has said enough is enough. She was recently let go. Some people said it was a power play. She's had some controversial interviews with the rabbi, which you heard about, and just other ones, but she confronts it. But then there are the things she doesn't confront. And she kind of feels that people are just ragging on her. So if you're going to be a person that is strong, be strong, but don't say, hey, you know what? They just won't leave me alone. I just want you to leave me alone. Such as the story that she's talking about. And
A friend of mine who I am
Mhm.
not going to name encouraged me to visit the Simon Wiesenthal Center. That's a human rights organization, human rights for Jews organization. And there was this very strange meeting that occurred. Now, I want to be clear that I didn't understand the meeting because the individuals were speaking in Hebrew. My understanding going into it was that once I spoke to this individual, things would be clarified and then I could just go on living and my reputation would pretty much be restored. And by golly, that's kind of what happened. So again, it was an extremely old man. I think he runs the place. I don't know. I can't remember his name, so I'm not going to make one up. But I had to sit in a meeting and explain that I didn't think Hitler was a great person, listen to two people speak Hebrew, and then my reputation was restored, or at least I was allowed to go on pursuing what I wanted to pursue, which was just talking about Black Americans and the fracturing of the Black and white relationship. It's a very odd thing when I reflect on that. But I want to be clear that the threat that Candance, this could be over at any moment for you, don't you get out of line again by, saying something that you never actually said, but don't make us have to threaten you again. That I still always felt over me because it was just a very scary thing to go through.
And that's interesting because she's talking about being scared by putting your viewpoints out there and going in situations maybe that you shouldn't go through. Was there a point in time, I'm curious, that Candance said, you know what, maybe I should stop talking about some of these Jewish situations and the Black Lives Matter because it seems like people just aren't supporting me. What do you do when you feel like I'm trying to say a point, but how much of that point is or could potentially hurt me in what I say? Should I stop saying the points? Here we go. Here's another point. On October 3rd, 2022, during Adidas Yeezy fashion show in Paris, Owens posed for a photo with Kanye West wearing a matching shirt with the White Lives Matter slogan. And she's going to talk about that if she hasn't already, about the White Lives Matter slogan. So during Paris Fashion Week, West entered negotiations with Owens' husband. And after West posted tweets declaring he would go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, wow. Owens defended West, stating that if you're an honest person, you did not find this tweet anti-Semitic. So what did that mean? Go DEFCON 3. Owens further accused the Anti-Defamation League of instigating anti-Semitism following the organization's criticism of West and Kyrie Irving. Owens' comments were made before West praised Adolf Hitler in an interview. So after the interview, Parley announced that West has canceled his plans to buy the website. Wow. And there have been people that have criticized Owens for her relationship with Kanye West, who's an interesting person in himself. Owens has also claimed there's a small ring of specific people, excuse me, who are using the fact that they are Jewish to shield themselves from any criticism, and that this ring appears to be something that is quite sinister. Wow. So now remember, this is her saying certain things, okay? We're going through commercials right now. But this is her saying certain things. It's not anybody saying she is. These are from her own words. You're watching the journey of Candance Owens and where she has been, where she's come, where she is going. Some people like her, some people don't. Some people look at her as role models, and other people are like, wow.
Right? Even when you're using your favorite apps,
what
whether
are
you're
you
an
going
iPhone.
to do now that she's not doing her thing as much as she was. So let's go back now to the interview of Candance talking.
That I use. Use my link to get 3 extra months free at EXPRESS.
And she does these commercials, which fund her. So what's she going to do now? I guess we're going to find out.
Thinking to start cutting carbs. I need to drop my belly fat.
One thing
If you want to drop this,
we do hate commercials.
Let's fast forward now to 2022, to a situation that the entire world was made aware of, obviously, when Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, tweeted this.
Now we're about to see the stuff that she was doing with Kanye, in which we talked about.
He tweeted, I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. The funny thing is I actually can't be anti-Semitic because Black people are actually Jew. Also, you guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who ever opposes your agenda.
So look at that again. I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. Jewish people, of course, is highlighted big time. The funny thing is, I actually can't be anti-Semitic because Black people are actually Jew. Also, you guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who ever opposes your agenda. Big statements.
Let's go to look at his tweet now without it being interpreted in the media, especially that last sentence. You guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who ever opposes your agenda. Now, at that time, obviously, the reason why people were looking for me to make a statement is that this tweet came very close to the time that I had taken the notorious picture with Kanye West. We both wore White Lives Matter t-shirts at his fashion show.
So look at that. White Lives Matters. That's interesting. 2 Black people wearing that. How much flack did they get from African Americans?
In Paris. Again, me teaming up with Kanye because I have a laser focus on the Black community, and I had a laser focus on wanting to destroy Black Lives Matter as an organization because I knew that they were lying to the Black community. So again, my entire relationship and what I did publicly with Kanye was based on Black America. But again, because this tweet came closely thereafter, people were looking at me to comment. And the truth is that I was aware behind the scenes, Kanye gave me conversations, I read them in their entirety, of very specific Jewish people who I would say were definitively making threats against him. And so I had more knowledge than the public had when he shared this tweet. Now, what happened thereafter was I tried to caution the public the very next day following his tweet. So he had done nothing else yet. He had done no interviews. It was just the tweet that had existed in the public sphere. And I was trying to essentially say to people, hold your horses, because I think that once he explains what's happening behind the scenes, you will realize that he's not talking about all Jewish people in the entire world. He is feeling passionately about certain people that he works with.
But that is interesting. So you have to know when you wore the shirt, White Lives Matter, that you're going to get some kind of criticism or some kind of response from that. Come on, you had to know that that was going to happen.
And here is what I said in an attempt to get people to hold their horses. Take a listen. That was the tweet. And people subsequently demanded that the tweet be taken down for anti-Semitism. Now, if you are an honest person, you did not think this tweet was anti-Semitic. You did not think that he wrote this tweet because he hates or wants to genocide Jewish people. This does not represent the beginning of the Holocaust. That's if you're an honest person, you'll admit that. You will admit that, right? If you're an honest person, when you read this tweet, you had no idea what the hell he was talking about. I had no idea when I read this tweet what the hell he was talking about. This tweet
So-
inspired questions, not answers. First,
So if you didn't know what he was talking about, you had to know he was talking about something that was kind of disrespectful of Jewish people.
foremost, what is DEFCON 3? Did he mean DEFCON 3, which would be a military defense position, not an offense for those of you that are offended, a military defense position? Is he tweeting this because he's reading the Newsweek headline calling him an anti-Semitic? Is he angry because he can't believe that he's not free to talk about people in his life who happen to be Jewish, right? Without being accused of anti-Semitism? Is he saying, I'm not going to shut up and I'm going to keep tweeting and I'm going to keep calling these people out, referring to his friends that he feels slighted by? Is he talking about Jared Kushner and Josh Kushner? If you're a liar, you'll say, I know I was scared, Candace. I actually thought that Kanye West was going to launch a military strike in Israel, because that's the reaction. Like when I woke up and I looked at the headlines, the reaction was like Kanye West had gotten together a military strike and it was going to go forward in the morning time in Israel. That was the reaction that was met with this tweet.
So the fun thing with the serpent is,
So didn't you think too that when you saw that tweet, you didn't think that he was gonna like go military on people, did you? Really? Did you really think that? I mean, come on. How goofy are people if we think we saw that tweet and we thought that Kanye West was about to go military on some people? Really? You're saying that now. He's very complicated. And like you and LeBron, there's some people that put things out there in tweets. They know what they're saying. They know how they do their things. They want some kind of response. White Lives Matter. Come on. DEFCON. Come on. You know, if you put that out, you're getting some word from people. Women's rights. Now, she's a woman. She's an African-American woman. So it says she's critical of feminism, but she embraces the trad wife phenomenon of traditional gender roles. She has described the Me Too movement. Remember that? Everybody was talking about that. An intentional movement against sexual harassment and assault. As stupid. She says the Me Too movement was stupid. Now, how many people were for the Me Too movement? Did she just say this just to get people to say something? Owens wrote that the movement was premised on the idea that women are stupid, weak. She opposes abortion, which she has called a tool for the extermination of Black babies. I cannot make some of this stuff up. Okay. In May 2018, Owens suggested that something biochemically happens to women who do not marry or have children, and she linked to the Twitter handles of Sarah Silverman, Chelsea Handler, and Kathy Griffin, saying that they were evidentially supportive of this theory. But Silverman, she responded, "It seems to me by tweeting this, you would like to maybe make us feel badly. I say this is evidenced by your sick effort to use our Twitter handles so we could see. My heart breaks for you, Candy. I hope you find happiness in whatever form that takes." And that's interesting. What is happiness to for Owens? Owens responded, accusing Silverman of supporting terrorists and crime gangs. Wow.
In the retrospect, you can see that I'm trying to suggest to people that there are specific people and he is having a reaction. And I will admit, if I fumbled the ball here, and I can understand why people were upset about it, they read that as, no, she's fully defending him, and he actually does want to go DEFCON 3 on all Jewish people everywhere. People were very upset that I had said that. But I want to be clear that I had actually read the messages that were being sent to him. One of them, he ended up sharing publicly. This was a text message from Harley Pasternak to Kanye.
Okay. So he's going to get some response because DEFCON saying that and kind of applying it to Jews was not a good thing, or applying it for anybody, DEFCON African Americans, and you're a white person saying that, of course, people are going to be upset. And it seemed like she's kind of making an excuse, saying, hey, I didn't really know what that means, and the fallout that Kanye has gotten from it.
And this was something, again, that I had read before he had sent that tweet. Text message reads, I'm going to help you one of a couple of ways. First, you and I sit down and have a loving and open conversation, but you don't use cuss words, and everything that is discussed is based in fact and not some crazy stuff that dumb friend of yours told you or you saw in a tweet. Second option, I have you institutionalized again, where they medicate the crap out of you and you go back to Zombieland forever. Playdate with the kids just won't be the same. Is that a normal tweet? I will ask you guys, a normal text message, pardon, or somebody in your life, and Harley Pasternak, yes, he is Jewish, to send to you. He's supposed to be a trainer. What do you mean I'll have you institutionalized again? What does that mean? That your playdates with the kid, you're threatening somebody's relationship with their kids, right? Now, when you do something like that, it can drive somebody crazy. And again, I will own it. If it read to people at that time that when I was saying that, I was defending his rights to impose upon every single Jewish person in the world, I apologize. And I'm hoping that this clarifies for you what I knew, the information that I had, and my understanding that he was responding to threats that he was actually getting from specific people. And I was hopeful that he would talk about that in a larger capacity, but then quite surprised when even when he did share that tweet, there was a minimal media response to it. It was sort of like, oh, well, Harley Pasternak is allowed to say that. And shame on you, Candance, for not recognizing it. But I want to be clear, that is the extent, what you just saw, of my commentary on that situation that led to a huge reaction, calls for me to resign, calls for me to get fired for defending Kanye West. I want to be honest here and tell you that I was also made to endure a very severe financial consequence behind the scenes because of those words that you heard right there. And one day I will talk more about that. You have my word.
So that's going to be interesting. We wonder now that she's going to be on her own. Is she going to talk about that? The Kanye West thing. She's apologizing, but is she apologizing for Kanye West for his words? How does she feel as far as Jewish people? And that DEFCON statement. Is she really looking at herself and saying, boy, these are some of the mistakes that I made, some of the noise that I put out there, some of the people that I've associated with. If you're talking about things that are bad, why aren't you talking about things that are bad that maybe you should be against? People say you hate the Jews. Now, why is that? Because we've been reading also about things that you've been saying. Okay? I'm reading the papers right here, but you're also backing it up. So on July 28th, and this is about LGBT rights. Let's see if she says about this. She stated she was in favor of banning transgender individuals who are undergoing sex reassignment surgery from serving in the United States military, but said that she did not oppose fully transitioned transgender individuals serving in the United States military. We all like Walt Disney, the movies, and maybe a place to go to. Does she? In April 2022, she called the Walt Disney Company child groomers and pedophiles and called for the boycott of the company. And this was after Disney announced its opposition to Florida House Bill 1557, officially known as the Parental Rights in Education Act, but commonly referenced as the Don't Say Gay legislation. Wow. In May 2022, she falsely claimed on Twitter that the gunman involved in the Robb Elementary School shooting could be transgender and said that he was cross-dressing. According to Owens, this was evidence that there were plenty of signs that he was mentally disturbed. In June 2022, she described Drag Queen Story Hour as child abuse, arguing that parents who take their children to a drag queen story hour are underqualified to have children and should have their children taken away from them. Wow. Now, doesn't that seem like Germany? So you're making these statements, and maybe to you they're true, but then you're also giving out false statements. And if people are watching you and they kind of believe in you, then you're giving them false information.
Let's fast forward instead to 2023. I'm scrolling through Twitter, and a journalist, again, this is just a few weeks after October 7th, and a journalist named Yashar Ali is, I think, being pretty measured in his responses. I think he's pro-Israel based on how he tweets and what he tweets about. But on this day, he was focused on something that Brian Mast, a congressman, had said on the floor. Yashar Ali tweeted, "This is absolutely sick stuff from Rep. Brian Mast. And if there's any decency left in Congress, a resolution will be passed to condemn his remarks and he'll be removed from the Foreign Affairs Committee. I'm not naive enough to think he'd resign." So I saw this tweet and then I clicked to see what Brian Mast said, and I was equally as disgusted. Here is what Brian Mast said.
As a whole, I would encourage the other side to not so lightly throw around the idea of innocent Palestinian civilians, as is frequently said. I don't think we would so lightly throw around the term innocent Nazi civilians during World War II.
If you've ever voted for my father, I'm asking you to chip in $5, $10, or even $25.
So isn't that interesting? Wow. We look at this again, the journey of Candance Owens. And she has had an interesting journey. So let's talk about welfare. What did she say about welfare? I thought this was interesting. She's critical of welfare programs, arguing that they can create dependency and discourage self-reliance among recipients. And part of that I think is true, because sometimes if you got the government giving you something, then why should you do something on your own? There are people out there that really rely on welfare to keep them going when they've got this stuff coming. Some are saying, well, why should I even attempt to work? And that's not a Candance Owens theory. That's a everybody theory. So she believes that welfare reform is necessary to promote individual responsibility and empower individuals to break free from government assistance. I believe in that. A lot of people believe in that. It's supposed to help you. It's not supposed to keep you down. She has said also that welfare is a Democratic Party tool to keep Black America dependent upon the government immigration. Owens is a proponent of the barrier, and she believes immigrants should be immediately deported. Now, how many people think that? Is that a good thing, bad thing? She warned that Europe will fail and become a Muslim majority continent by 2050. Again, she warned that Europe will fail and fall and become a Muslim majority continent by 2050. Now, how does she know that? There's never been a Muslim majority country where Sharia law was not implemented. She then said that the United States would then be forced to save the British. Wow. Where did she get some of these things from? What kind of research does she have? But when she has a platform like this to talk, then we, if we're not watching anything else, will tend to believe the talker.
Basically saying is there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life. And basically, I believe, was laying the groundwork for genocide. That's genocidal language to say about any group of people. If I say there's no such thing as an innocent Iraqi, it doesn't matter who you're talking about. That is genocidal language. And so I retweeted this and I said, yeah, this was disgusting, utterly dehumanizing. Of course, there are innocent civilians on either side of every conflict, and we should not forget that. This is shameful, inhumane rhetoric. I shortly followed up that retweet with a blanket statement No government anywhere has a right to commit a genocide ever. There was no justification for a genocide. I can't believe this even needs to be said or is even considered the least bit controversial to state. Of course, what Brian Mast said was wrong. When I tweeted that second tweet, people thought that I was talking about Israel, or some people thought I was talking about Israel. They were so far in the trenches, they thought that I was making a statement that Israel is committing a genocide, when in reality, I was saying that people like Brian Mast need to cool it with their language. I get something bad has happened, but you can't say stuff like this ever. And so what happened was people who were formerly friends of mine, like Dave Rubin, began reading into it, began doing shows, just pretending, straight up pretending that I made a statement about the Israeli government when in fact I hadn't. I just showed you the proof that I had not. I liked Yashar's tweet. I retweeted it. I was obviously speaking about Brian Mast, but it didn't matter because what I learned and what I think a lot of people are learning, and especially on the heels of my discussion with Rabbi Barclay, is that even if what you said was something else, how some people feel should be prioritized. So even though I was talking about Brian Mast and I was proven right in talking about Brian Mast, I was still at fault. I needed to understand that I was still wrong because of how other people felt, that the timing of my tweet wasn't right. It wasn't the right time to say that genocide is always wrong. There's a time and a place for that, and that was not it. Then it got even weirder because people started just spinning conspiracy theories. They started saying that I was coordinating with Tucker Carlson to intentionally get fired from the Daily Wire. I'm not kidding. People were beginning to say, and Dave Rubin was among these people, that it was so obvious, gosh, why else would someone say genocide is always wrong, right? That I was trying to get hired by Tucker Carlson. There must have been some coordination between us. At 40 weeks pregnant, this was my big, bad plan. This was psychopathic. None of this was true. There wasn't an ounce of truth to that statement whatsoever. In fact, I refer to this as IAnon. It's like Israel Anon. It's a conspiracy theory born of absolutely nothing. But the onslaught continued. People attacking my character, saying horrific things about me simply because I didn't like what Brian Mast has said. And of course, most notoriously, everybody remembers that a clip started circulating of Ben Shapiro here at Daily Wire making ad hominem attacks on me, which I chose not to respond to at that time. I didn't think it was appropriate. But that, of course, just fed more people that were attacking me.
So there's a couple of things in that segment of what she said. Remember, these are own words. Is there a good time or bad time to talk about when genocide is wrong? No, we talk about it because it's wrong. She talks about people attacking him. She tends to be woe is me. She's strong, like I said, in one part, but very weak in other parts. Please don't attack me for what I say, or you're misconstruing what I say. Well, we hear what she's saying. And I'm reading what she's saying. So you tell me, are there attacks on her right, attacks on her wrong? Again, she's a person that's getting the news, getting opinions, and if you watch her, you might believe some of the stuff she says, you take it with a grain of salt. Here, take it for a grain of salt. Let's see what people think. She's being attacked. In July 2018, she claimed that global warming is not real, calling it a lie used to extract dollars from Americans. Wow. In 2021, she promoted paid ads on Facebook, calling the United States government modern doomsayers who have been wrongly predicting climate crisis for decades. That's a discussion too. Do you believe in climate control or global warming? Look at some of the days now. Summertime is winter. Winter is summer. Spring is fall. They're all messed up. Is this global warming? Another thing, COVID-19, the mask. How many people believe in that or not? So in April 2020, Owens said that COVID-19 deaths were overcounted. Health experts said that it was more likely that COVID deaths were undercounted. Regarding a vaccine, she said in June 2020 that under no circumstances will I be getting any coronavirus vaccine that becomes available, ever, no matter what. She also referred to Bill Gates as a vaccine criminal and said that he and the World Health Organization use African and Indian tribal children to experiment with non-FDA approved drug vaccines. So who would think that the government, think about this, would use people and experiment with them to see how these drugs are? Let us think. Maybe on this one she might be right. Philadelphia experiment. Go back to that, if I'm correct on the title, when African Americans for decades were experimented and watched by the government. Check that out. Let me know if that's a conspiracy theory. And also, some African Americans, they don't take medicine today because of this Philadelphia experiment. And if you don't know, ask somebody you know who's African American about the Philadelphia experiment. And if they don't know, tell them about it. If you don't know fully, look it up. And that's me giving you that. So she also called Bill Gates, like I said, a vaccine criminal. And she says, I am proud that I committed myself to standing firm against the bribery, media propaganda, celebrity peer pressure campaign, plus censorship. It isn't easy to swim against such a polluted current, but here I am. I trust my gut much more than trust Dr. Fauci. Wow. When you trust what you believe in, and you're the only one that believes in it, maybe it's not something you should trust. But to be able to have this platform to put out some of this information, I'm trying to find the good information. But all I'm reading and hearing is a controversial information. And now the media is attacking her in her eyes, because in her eyes, she's telling the truth to the people.
Grand Canyon University is a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. GCU.
And she is a Christian. And what is a Christian? How many times have you had people who have done bad things that say they're a Christian? It's all in the eyes of the beholder, as we find out. And with her not being on as much anymore, what is going to be her platform? Where is she going to be at? We're going to have to sit back and wait. Will we feel sorry for her because she doesn't have this platform? Maybe she was doing this because she knew she was going to be leaving. She's got a lot of viewers. She can go to Twitter. She can go to a lot of places and, really, I guess, have her followers follow her there. Wow. Has a follower. Trump has a follower. Biden has a follower. A lot of people. And I always tell people, all you have to do is give something to believe, people to believe in, and they will follow you. You're watching as we're trying to put this all together. Yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander, and we are keeping it real. We don't just keep it simple. We don't just keep it honest. We keep it real. We're trying to get to the spot at now where she's going to be talking about, and this is going to be interesting, the Israel-Palestine conflict. And she's been talking about that, but we're going to elaborate more on this. And was this that got her fired? That's what I'm just curious about. Was this that got her fired because she talked about this and they were tired of hearing about it?
conversation with the rabbi. He is now starting to share with everybody that I'm enraged. You have Rabbi Shmuley. She's deranged. She just hates Jews so much. Smear after smear after libel after libel after libel, and it will not stop. 2 years of consistent threats and harassment from Rabbi Shmuley and his hag daughter, and they have not let up.
So hag daughter. And that almost sounds like it's a discriminatory comment. Look up hag daughter and let me know what it means to you. But just say that. For people that don't know, it sounds like name calling. But for people that do, they understand what it means.
They began, by the way, they jumped into the game on the basis of that clip that I just showed you. I'm not ashamed to show you guys what I said because nothing was anti-Semitic. I was just trying to tell people that more was happening behind the scenes. That's it. Not make any claims or yelling or saying all Jewish people are this or that. And yet people are saying definitively that I am a Jew hater, a Jew hating bigot. That's what.
Jew hating bigot. Now, if that's what people are going to say about you in your description, when they describe you, oh yeah, Candance Owens, a Jew hating bigot. Don't you want some good things to be said as they're talking about you and your legacy from now to the next platform that you go on? So in 2021, in a December interview, she asked Donald Trump about vaccine mandates, and this is what he said. He said that he explained to her that he shared her views on mandates, but said that the vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind. He added, the ones that get very sick and go to the hospital are the ones that don't take the vaccine. You're protected. Look, the results of the vaccine are very good. And if you do get it, it's a very minor form. People aren't dying when they take the vaccine. In December, Owens promoted the anti-vaccine film Die Suddenly. Wow. Now, this one I thought was pretty interesting. This dispute with Molly Tibbetts. I'm going to tell you about that one in a second.
What Rabbi Barclay said. What is the point of this? I want you guys to actually ask yourself this. When people say they're going to Michael Jackson you, what are they actually referring to? Well, I have a suspicion that what they mean is that all of these attacks are meant to drive me crazy, right? To drive someone crazy, to make threats to their life, to smear their reputation, to libel them, to make them somebody who can't even be hired or work within a certain industry because they have been so forceful in their lies and in their smears.
So a lot of people saying that she's doing wrong, she represents people wrong, she overstates the negative, bad. If it's your reputation and you're being known for that, who is causing that bad reputation? Is it you or the people that are reporting on you? Because you may have reported misinformation.
Basically, then to drive that person to a point of anger so that they might tweet something that's angry, that they might tweet something that appears to be irrational to the public so that they can turn around and they can say, told you so. I told you Candance was crazy. I told you she was deranged. I told you she was an anti-Semite. But what's really happening is that you have specific people that are in the Jewish community that won't stop attacking me. They won't stop attacking me. And I think most people, after years of enduring this, would in fact be driven crazy. People actually just yesterday, after listening to the full hour and a half discussion between me and Rabbi Barclay, said, Candance, I don't know how you do it. This would drive me crazy. Yeah. Add years of that, headline after headline, smear after smear, and ask what sort of person would still remain this calm.
Wow. So what kind of person would remain that calm? That is interesting. But again, the narrative is that you're always talking bad about people. And maybe if you would talk about good things more, it would overstack some of the bad things that people are talking about you. So this dispute with the family of Molly Tibbetts. In August 2018, she had a dispute with Sam Lucas, cousin of Molly Tibbetts, who had been murdered by Christian Rivera, a 24-year-old Mexican undocumented immigrant. Tibbetts' cousin said that Owens had exploited Tibbetts' death for political propaganda. Owens responded by describing Lucas's criticism as a strange attack on Trump supporters. So later that month, the University of Iowa's chapter of Turning Point USA criticized her for public harassment towards a member of Tibbetts' family, and executive board members of the chapter all resigned in protest. Wow. Where is this going? She's complaining about taking a lot of hits, but she's always making a lot of comments.
I want to be clear. What is happening is a form of psychological terrorism. What they're doing to me is a form of psychological terrorism. They want me to snap so that I can then prove their point. Actually, my options are two. Either we're going to keep smearing you until you snap, or you can simply comply. And what is the thing that they want me to comply with? I'm not sure. I think I've been pretty rational and I've been pretty level-headed. I don't understand why they have been engaging in this sort of smearing. This is why I'm terming this merchants of smear, because what they're doing here is they're constantly threatening people behind the scenes, publicly threatening people by smearing their reputations, and they never, ever, ever take a break. This business just keeps going on and on and on and on. And the point is, again, to make me submit.
So to make you submit to what? That you ready to quit? So you look at this, if this was their last interview, it's like a baseball player, a football player. When you retire, you want to retire on that high note. You don't want to like continue to play and then you're not as good, Michael Jordan, or you're a legend, you're great at your game, but then you don't leave at the top of your game. So as we've watched this and going through this Candance Owens journey, is she leaving at the top of her game? Some people may say because she had the interview with Rabbi Barclay, which I thought was very fascinating because she addressed some of the accusations that he said against her. And they dealt with it head on, which is the best way, I think, to do an interview. Or her saying she's tired and people are coming after her. How is this ending this journey, this particular journey for her now? So she's been criticized, of course, for all this propaganda, conspiracy theories. This is interesting. The moon landings were fake, she said. And she's appeared on many conspiracy sites. In 2018, she was a guest on Fox News and began to distance herself from the far-right conspiracy websites, although she refused to criticize InfoWars or its host. During the October 2018 United States mail bombing attempts targeting prominent Democrats, Owens took to Twitter to promote the conspiracy theory that the mailings were sent by leftists. After authorities arrested a 56-year-old suspect who was a registered Republican and Trump supporter, she deleted her tweet without explanation. Wow. And what is the most controversial to me? It was about Adolf Hitler. Again, I really don't have any problems at all with the world for nationalism. She said in February 2019 that Hitler was a homicidal, psychopathic maniac that killed his own people, and Hitler was not a nationalist. He murdered his own people. A nationalist would not kill their own people. She said that the point of her comments was to say that there is no excuse or defense ever for everything that Hitler did. She also said that her comments were about Hitler's crimes against Jews. So that the media turned this in a different way. She's in the media. Were these her beliefs? What do you think?
Another example of that, this is rather shocking. I'm not kidding. Yesterday, a journalist, and I'm putting this into quotation marks, despite all of the debunking that I did in that long article, in that long interview with Rabbi Barclay, already was jumping on the next smear. His name is Isaac Shore. He writes for, you guessed it, Mediaite, as well as the New York Post. And he is now publicly calling to have me fired. He's written a lot of articles, by the way, and he talks to a lot of people behind the scenes, telling them not to run any pieces on Candance Owens. Don't talk about Candance Owens. This guy's like, doing a real hit job here. And like a total rational journalist, he tweeted, how long will the Daily Wire stand by Candance Owens? No one is asking the Daily Wire to stop Owens from peddling hatred and conspiracy theories. They're just wondering why it's choosing to subsidize such behavior. Yeah, totally a rational thing for a journalist to tweet.
And again, she's talking about journalists. Don't know if she's a journalist. I guess she doesn't consider herself a journalist. She's a political commentator who talks about things in the news and gives her information about it. But does she know that her statements that she makes, it really matters to people who watch her? So now that she's not on a daily basis, how do you feel about that? How is she going to have her brand out there? And is she going to continue to have her brand out there? The importance of doing any kind of media thing. You should try to get both sides of the story. And if she's not a journalist, she's a political commentator, then she's doing her job. But why does she believe in certain things that she believes? Does she believe in mainstream stuff? Or does she believe in left and right stuff that makes you scratch your head and say, well, why did she say that? So, another statement. Brenton Harrison Tarrant, a terrorist who committed the Christchurch mosque shootings, he produced a manifesto prior to committing the shootings in which he wrote, listen to this, that Owens had influenced him above all. And according to a journalist, it was possibly, even likely, that Tarrant was a fan of Owens, considering her rhetoric against Muslim immigrants, but that in contrast, his references to her may have been an example of blank intended to provoke political conflict. For instance, the line, "Do I will have to disavow some of Owens' beliefs? The extreme actions she calls for are too much, even for my taste," was assessed by the group as trolling. So this guy that murdered some people, he put her in his manifest. Wow, so you have to be careful who you talk to, because you never know if they're mentally unstable, what you're doing. So hours after the shooting, she posted a tweet in reaction to allegations that she inspired the mass murder, saying that she never created any content exposing or espousing her views on the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution or Islam. Her tweet was criticized as glib when it was reported that she actually had posted tweets about the Second Amendment and Islam. She later made formal statements rejecting any connection to the terrorists. When you got this platform, it's very important. Use it wisely.
He accompanied that with an article by the same title, How Long Will the Daily Wire Stand by Candance Owens, because as you've seen, I've showed you the whole history. Aren't you convinced yet? They've written so many articles. These psychological terrorists, they've told you 1,000 times anti-Semite, so it must be true. And why would anyone hire and stand by a raging anti-Semite? They've said it so many times, guys. And he wasn't done. He wrote a second headline yesterday published on Mediaite. Maybe, I don't know, just enraged at the fact that I had to sit down and spoke rationally to Rabbi Barclay. I don't know what's driving this, but here's the headline. Candance
Owens endorses wild anti-Semitic conspiracy theory about Jews being drunk on Christian blood. Let's see her explain it.
Owens endorses wild anti-Semitic conspiracy theory about Jews being drunk on Christian blood. That is the headline, you guys. You've been listening to the show. Have you ever heard me endorse a conspiracy theory about Jews being drunk on Christian blood? How sick and how sinister is this getting? How utterly insane this is all getting.
And with this, did the media try to push her off the air because she has this voice, because she feels like everything, the pressure is mounting on her? Or again, was it because of things that she has said? And people just said, you know what? We're tired.
It's starting to feel like there's some sort of a bounty on my head, and the person that can convince the public of something that is so ridiculous that I can't come back from is just going to receive a ton of money. And Isaac Shore is really competing for that, because do you want to know where he got that conspiracy theory from? A tweet that I had liked of someone defending me when Rabbi Shmuley was smearing me. He dug up an old tweet of mine that was from February, tried to present it as if it was something new and something that was about him before our back and forth ever even broke out. So I liked the tweet because it clarified the right date of the tweet, saying that,
why are you not investing in tax liens? No, seriously.
Wow. So this is so interesting, because as she's closing this now, what are your views about this? Christian blood? Some people attribute it to her or her responding. Let's hear it.
tweet. I just obviously liked that this person was calling out this BS smearing tactic. Little did I know that Isaac Shore and a team of journalists are now monitoring every single like of mine on Twitter to see if they can convince the public that I am advocating for insanity. This is how desperate they have become.
Her last show, one of her last shows, and does she sound like she's giving up? Or does she know she's got another platform that she's going to be going to? Wow. We don't just keep it simple. We don't just keep it real. We keep it honest. The journey of Candance Owens.
So I'll ask the question, what are we actually witnessing here?
What are we witnessing here? Are we witnessing somebody that's breaking down? Or are we witnessing the journey continuing with Candance Owens? And we don't know that she's going to be continued. Was this just a setup for her to say, hey, I'm going to end this before they end me?
Do you believe Isaac Shore is a victim? Did you believe that he is a person who genuinely in his heart thinks that I think Jews are running around drinking Christian blood by that headline? Do you think that Rabbi Barclay is a victim? Do you honestly believe his interpretation that I was the one who owed the apology to him and the Jewish community on the basis that I just won't let them keep trying to smear me out of existence? Specific people in the Jewish community. God forbid, did she defend herself against Rabbi Shmuley? Do you believe Rabbi Shmuley is a victim? When you listen to these individuals speak and the things that they are publicizing, does that register to you as true victimhood? Because what it registers to me as is power. Real power hiding behind a veneer of victimhood, the kind of power that can take somebody out and end their entire career if that person says something that they don't like. And in this case, it's not that I'm saying things that they don't like, it's that I'm refusing to allow my voice to be controlled.
So is she saying things that people don't like? Does she feel like she's losing control of what she's doing? Does she feel like society is trying to control her throughout the media and her controversial statements?
I want to be clear to you guys. I'm going to be honest with you because everybody's noticing it. Every single political commentator in America, every single one of them knows this, that if you do not step out and say things that are radically pro-Israel, or if you are too quiet on certain narratives and they want you to be radically pro-Israel, you can lose everything.
And you know what, just media-wise, as I've been doing the streaming, my background's in mainstream media. I've done that for years, and I loved telling the stories then. But as I started watching streaming, and then I go back to mainstream, I find out, well, you know what, things that they're saying in mainstream, they're really not talking about it in mainstream, which surprises me. They're talking about it in streaming. And so I'm a proponent of anybody that has a voice, because unfortunately, when you have that good voice, yeah, you have that bad voice. I tell people, yes, we know we have Jesus, but we forget, and God, but we forget that that devil is there too. And unfortunately, when you have good, you have to have bad too, left and right. But we don't give power sometimes to that devil. We have to recognize that there is power there, because if we don't recognize that, then it's going to take over. And with news now and mainstream wanting to change the narrative, we do need streamers out here that can give all sides of the story. And I'm a proponent of streaming and freedom of the press, freedom of speech. And we have to realize, even though we have the good freedom of the speech, we're going to have the bad one. We have to have both sides, and prayerfully, people will pick the right side.
That's truth. That is a fact. I'm not feeling like I need to hide from that anymore, or be afraid to say it, rather, is a better way to say it, because I've endured this for years. I'm just at the end of my rope. I have given so much rope here, and I am just done with it. Every person that you are a fan of, they know this. Every person that you line up to go here speak, they know this. Again, it's not even on the basis of what you say. It can sometimes be on the basis of what you don't say. That an entire mob will assemble, they'll write piece after piece after piece until you subjugate. If you don't subjugate, the bounty grows larger. So yes, there was a large bounty on my head for the crime of refusing to suddenly hate Muslims and to condone Muslims getting bombed following October 7th. Everybody can see that. I have said nothing controversial, because genuinely I was sad when a bunch of innocent Israelis were murdered and killed in horrific acts. And genuinely, I am sad when a bunch of innocent Palestinians, and yes, they do exist, Brian Mast, are now being made to endure bombing and all sorts of other horrific things that we are all seeing on Twitter.
So I'm curious, those statements right there, were they controversial? Was that her being honest and saying she feels bad? Do we feel sympathy for what she just said?
That is my crime. Everybody can see that. It's ridiculous to pretend that it's anything else, okay? There's no language that I have used. There's nothing insane that I have said other than I would like to treat all races the same. I refuse to be a supremacist. I refuse to condone supremacy. That is my crime. So I wanted to do here for all of you guys that are worried that something's going to happen to me is to just provide this full accounting of everything that I've ever done and everything that I've ever said that has been deemed controversial from this mafia, right? This mafia of journalists that will not let up and leave me alone.
Well, I guess now she's going to be left alone. She won't have to worry about it, because it seems like she's told her story. And speaking of the story, let's talk about the good things, her personal life. How is Candance Owens? So she met her British husband, George Farmer, in 2018 at the launch event for Turning Point UK, a conservative student organization. So George Farmer, the son of Lord Farmer, was a chairman of Turning Point UK at that time. Wow. So her father-in-law is Lord Farmer. The two developed a connection through their shared conservative values and eventually started dating before George's proposal to her just weeks after first meeting. Wow. The two became engaged in 2019 and were married in August that year at the Trump Winery in Charlottesville, Virginia. Numerous people attended. I wasn't invited though. Larry Elder, radio host, politician, and Kanye West. Wow. So she's been around a lot of some of these same people who have been controversial in society. So she's part of that crowd.
That's what it is. What is it? What else could it possibly be? You're acting like a mafia. You are threatening me. You are taking my words out of context. You are telling people to fire me on the basis that I just won't be radical, on the basis that I won't hate on command. It's not about love, it's about hate. You want me to hate on command. And I want to be clear that what these journalists are engaging in is evil. It is absolute evil.
So is it evil because they're coming after you, or is it evil because they're telling stories that you're trying to tell?
Do this to any person. And I'm not going to be driven crazy by it. In fact, I'm going to be driven to more clarity by it. I'm going to grow stronger from this. I'm going to be a person that is more encouraged to speak out on what is happening to me. I want the public to see what is happening to me because I think they know my heart and they know that what I am actually doing is refusing hatred. Balance of nature fruits and veggies is the most convenient way to get whole food.
Wow. And I'm just curious, when people do see these commercials, have they really said, you know what, I want to buy some of these things that they're talking about, especially her with the vegetables? I'm curious the power of people out there that are doing anything in the media, how they can get people to buy certain things. Well, I know I won't buy it because I'm not one that buys things off of commercials or spokespeople. So speaking of spokesperson, you're watching Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker, and we talk about the legacy and the journey of Candance Owens. And what a journey it's been.
By the way, further to that point of Anna Kasparian, her and I have basically been on the opposite side of everything throughout our entire career. She has.
And this part I am not going to play because I didn't think that was really that interesting. So if you want to see the whole interview, type in, I think she's still there, Candance Owens. Get on YouTube, type that, see if you can pull it up, and maybe there'll be some things in this interview that you said, wow, okay, I didn't really keep up with that. We try to put everything with Parker Twist.
That not only will I watch,
like it, because we talked about the journey, really, and it's been a journey for Candance Owens.
About the matter one way or the other. So why not send somebody who I think I've earned the trust of the American public. I'm not someone that will ever be bought and paid for. I'm not someone that will ever say things that I know to be untrue. Why not allow me to go?
And who is Candance Owens? Well, she's closing it and telling you who she really is.
I'll talk to IDF shoulders, I'll talk to Netanyahu, but I also want to speak to people that are impacted by this in Gaza. I want to see what's going on in Gaza. Why not allow someone like me to go there? And I've offered that I will bring other journalists that I think are middle of the line, not one way or the other, simply reporting on the matters and similarly having to endure a bunch of threats and a bunch of smears. People like my friend, who's just a commentator, Dave Smith, a Jewish person who is now being told that he's a self-hating Jew because he won't get in line and, I don't know, deliver the AIPAC talking points. People have a right to know what is going on, especially when it is so significant that you're willing to take out people for not saying the right thing. So my offer stands. Anybody who wants to write an article or smear me or libel me, you are invited to this show. Hopefully, they'll take up my offer. Hopefully, in a few weeks, I will be out to Israel and I will be out to Gaza and I will be able to report to you guys what it is that I actually see. But I also want to say this because it's so important.
And the one thing I do agree with her, she loves telling stories, and it seems like the journey for her before this all ended was to go out of the country and interview people and tell stories. And, you know, maybe that journey would have made it better for her. So let's say she went on this journey, got to interview a lot of people, and people saw another side of her. And maybe this would have enlightened her, and maybe she would have retracted some of the statements that she made. I kind of look at this as remember Malcolm X when he went to Mecca. And at one point he was, you know, all for himself, African Americans and everything, black people, black power. And he went to Mecca and he came back. And he pretty much, in my understanding, was instead of just all my identity, my race, let's see if we can work with the human race. So of all the controversies and statements that, man, Candance Owens has said, maybe if she'd have been able to, as she said a couple of seconds ago, go to these other countries, talk to people, maybe should have came back with an enlightened heart. Maybe she would have felt, okay, I can really make a difference. I can really be the storyteller of what I'm supposed to be here for. Wow. So what do we do with what we know of Candance? She's finished for now on this station. And what else are some of her goals?
I am team God. Okay? I'm team God. I do not fear the media. I do not fear journalists. I do not fear APAC. I don't fear big pharma. What I actually fear is God. I think that one day we are all going to have to account for the things that we have done and the things that we have said. And I want to make sure that I am not a person that is parroting lies. The fear of losing your job, encouraging some people to spit out lies, I don't think that works in the end, right?
I like that. She fears God. If you're going to fear somebody, fear God. And maybe she's fearing God and saying, okay, well, this is what I have to do to be a better person. I have this power, I have this gift to tell stories, and maybe I'm not telling them all in the right way. Maybe God is telling me to reevaluate myself. But if I'm going to end what I do on this journey, I'm going to end it by being held accountable and holding accountability within myself. That's the best way to be.
I think you've got to check your priorities. And so with that said, I want to thank everybody.
And I want to thank everybody too for watching this show as we talk about the journey of Candance Owens. If you have any questions or comments, you can email yours truly. It's parkerman2011@gmail.com, parkerman2011@gmail.com. You can give me a call. Telephone number is 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. You've been watching the journey of Candance Owens. Past couple of years, as she had ups and downs. Is she a force that's going to be reckoned with? Do we feel sad and sorry for her? She's got a buyout, I think. And she says she'll be doing some stuff on her website. So check out the website. She might be on Twitter. You never know. She might have her own company. Where are the people going to go that follow her? We're going to find out. And for the people that don't follow her, like I said, some African Americans have said, don't come to us now. Some Jewish people and other ethnic groups are pretty much glad that she's gone, but will she be missed? And like I said, free speech. When is it that having free speech can hurt you? When is free speech too much of free speech? Something to think about. Try to get both sides of a story. When you hear somebody say something that sounds kind of, try to go more in depth with that. That's your job. Our job is to give you the stories and give you both sides. Your job is to go further. We're like the cliff notes of society. And I could not say this any better than she can. We just pray for her and her heart and her soul. I'm Anthony Parker. Alexander, you're watching Keeping It Honest. We don't just keep it simple. We don't just keep it real, but we keep it honest. Tell your friends. God bless.
Who has been on this journey with me, people that have supported me. I especially want to thank all of the Jewish people that have been in the comments saying how outraged they are. And I know that it is especially difficult for you guys right now because you are being smeared, you know? I mean, I'm not going to go away. I'm going to use my God-given voice to talk about the things that are important for me. I'm just asking to be left alone, or at least just report the truth.